Well, things are getting a little bit interesting when it comes to the NFL draft. Take a little look at this. This was posted this morning on Reddit. It says Will Levis is currently plus 4,000 to be the first overall pick. Well, ladies and gentlemen, he's telling friends and family Carolina will in fact take him on Thursday. You're welcome. And you can see the result of that little rumor. Will Levis overall odds for the number one pick 1 hour ago plus 4,000. The current odds on DraftKings plus 400. And as I'm speaking Tuesday early afternoon, all the odds for the number one overall pick are off the board on every single sports book. So there's a lot of people speculating. Could you imagine if you saw that Reddit comment and then immediately threw $100 on Will Levis plus 4,000? Let me just be honest. I think this is a total smokescreen. I am not buying this for a second. This is what always happens right before the draft. You hear a certain guy is going to go number one overall, but it is crazy. The idea that you see this, you throw $100 on Will Levis. Now it's plus 400 in the span of an hour for him going number one to Carolina. And it's just been a crazy draft cycle. This is what happens every year. Like when you look at the top four quarterbacks going into the offseason, it seemed like Bryce Young was the number one pick. CJ Stroud was number two. Then the combine happens. Then maybe Anthony Richardson. Oh my goodness, his physical tools. Maybe he'll be the number one pick. Then you get out of the combine. It's back kind of to CJ Stroud. Carolina trades for the first overall pick. Frank Reich likes bigger quarterbacks. CJ Stroud, he's the odds-on favorite. He was like minus 250. And then recently, it's all been Bryce Young. The thing comes out about CJ Stroud and his overall score, the S2 score, which is a big test that they take to measure, your overall football knowledge in certain situations. And I kind of want to talk about what's going on right now with CJ Stroud. And let me just say, guys, if the odds come back up for the number one overall pick and CJ Stroud is like plus 1,200, I would be tempted to throw $100 on CJ Stroud. The thing with the S2, if it actually comes that he did score 8 in the 18 percentile, I don't think you can draft him first overall if he scored in the 18 percentile. And I'm starting to get really concerned that he did score in the 18th percentile. I'm going to try and summarize the situation. So these numbers come out. You can see originally people were saying Bryce Young did crazy. The numbers get leaked. Bryce Young 98th percentile, Will Levis 93rd, Richardson 79th, Hendon Hooker 46, CJ Stroud 18. So obviously Hendon Hooker not doing too well. CJ Stroud bombs it. Well, they had one of the SI, the cognitive test founders, in an interview a few days ago where he said one of the players, one of the big-time quarterbacks, took the test late at night, kind of gave him an excuse, said he was coming off an all-star game, he was tired, and he got a bad score, and then they redid the test, and then he got a better score, and people were saying, oh, he must be talking about CJ Stroud, but apparently people are now speculating he was really talking about Hendon Hooker because Hendon Hooker did an all-star game and CJ Stroud didn't, or something like that. So I'm starting to believe that CJ Stroud might have actually scored in the 18 percentile because you would think there would be some type of retort by CJ Stroud and his agent because he's just been getting dragged about this score. So the fact that there's no retort lends me to believe that maybe he did, but I just can't see it personally. And if it is fake, man, if you like CJ Stroud, I still think can be the number one overall pick. People have to understand the thing with Bryce Young. The dude is the exact same height as Kyler Murray. The exact same. And he weighs less. So this is a very, very small quarterback. We know Frank Reich likes bigger QBs. Maybe that gives some credence to the whole Will Levis thing at number one. Maybe it ends up being him out of nowhere and that leak ends up being right. but I really do think CJ Stroud still has a chance to go number 1 overall. It looks like now Will Levis jumps into the fray as well, considering his overall build. He had a really good S2 score, and then Bryce Young, maybe the most complete quarterback. The only thing he's missing is the height, which is a big issue. It's very hard to draft a quarterback number 1 overall with Bryce Young's current build, with how much he weighs and things like that. So this is all crazy stuff. Right now, Bryce Young, according to the overall sports books, is still the betting favorite to be the number 1 pick, but Will Levis now is moving up significantly. If I had to throw a dart, I really have no clue. I might buy Will Levis at number 1. The only reason I say that is because we know Frank Reich likes the bigger QBs. Maybe originally he likes CJ Stroud, but CJ Stroud bombing the test might have really hurt him. I mean, listen, I'm not going to put total credence onto the test, but if you got in the 18th percentile, I mean, that's a huge red flag, man. That is next level bad. It's very hard to draft a quarterback if they scored that bad on a test that supposedly is respected within the industry. And then there's also this whole idea that only half the NFL teams actually have access to seeing the test results. So there's that interesting thing. Just taking a look at the last few mock drafts that I've seen, Bryce Young going number 1 in every single one of them. CJ Stroud, the second pick will be real interesting. So Anthony Richardson going number 2 in one of them, CJ Stroud going number 2 in another one, and then Tyree Wilson, who I just cannot believe that you would draft Tyree Wilson instead of Will Anderson. That is complete. There is no way that happens. I will guarantee you that right now. No way Tyree Wilson goes in front of Will Anderson. If you can bet on Will Anderson being the first defensive player taken, I would certainly be interested in that, but I think it's minus money, so I really don't think there's good value in that right now. But the situation that we're watching is really the quarterback one. It wouldn't surprise me if we get a rumor tonight, oh my God, suddenly out of nowhere, it turns out they really like Anthony Richardson because of his mobility and how all the records he set at the combine. I mean, this stuff is just ridiculous at this point. You're going to have people that say, oh, it's still going to be Bryce Young. I was really never a huge believer in it being Bryce Young. If it turns out that CJ Stroud's score was a joke and he just took it late at night and he retested and did better, I would bet right now that CJ Stroud will be the number 1 overall pick. I would bet that right now, but I don't know that. I don't know the situation on his score and his agent not coming out against it. That seems to be a bit of a red flag to me. Like maybe he did score really bad on it. And maybe, this latest rumor on Will Levis ends up being true. But this is just kind of the fun stuff when it comes to the draft. Bryce Young, I would say, is still the favorite to go number 1. My thinking, this is just how I see it. I see CJ Stroud going number 1 to Carolina, Bryce Young going number 2, and then Will Levis going to Indianapolis. Will Indianapolis trade up to number 3? Possibly. I think Arizona is really going to leverage being at the number 3 pick and talk to Indianapolis and say, listen, if you guys don't trade from 4 to 3, we're going to trade down and you're going to get leapfrogged from a team like maybe Vegas wants a quarterback, maybe Tennessee jumps up if CJ Stroud falls, or they want to go get Anthony Richardson or something like that. There's going to be fear from Indianapolis at number 4 that they will get jumped by someone, so I could see Arizona using that against Indianapolis and doing a little trade, getting some extra capital, and then Arizona going and drafting the best defensive player, probably Will Anderson, if quarterbacks go 1, 2, and 3. Maybe they'll just stay at number 3 and take whoever they want. I could see that, but I would expect a trade almost assuredly at number 3. I know Tennessee's been kind of a sexy team. People are saying maybe Tennessee trades up from number 11. They're talking about trading Derrick Henry. I would not be surprised at all if Tennessee traded Derrick Henry for a 3rd or a 4th round pick. But again, you also have to think of it like this is Derrick Henry's last year on his contract, but if you are drafting a young quarterback, you want Derrick Henry to be there so the young quarterback has some help and he's not just going to be thrown to the wolves in year 1. So there's a lot really at play right now. It'll be interesting to see how it shakes out, but I would still say, yes, Bryce Young is the favorite to go number 1 overall. After that, you could have a slew of things happening. I do not buy the smoke that Houston is taking someone other than a quarterback. Beggars cannot be choosers. You're drafting 2nd overall. If you do not take a quarterback, I saw a rumor that Houston was just going to take a quarterback later in the draft. What sense does that make? You're in a Bermuda Triangle of death right now. You're starting Davis Mills. You need to draft a quarterback at number 2. You need to. And this is really Houston's fault because they won a completely meaningless game in the last play of the regular season for them that really knocked them from that number 1 pick, gave it to Chicago, and then Chicago makes the trade, and Carolina completely undercuts them. Now they're in control, and we will see what they end up doing. I do think the Will Levis stuff is a smokescreen, but it does make sense if Frank Reich wants a bigger quarterback. Maybe he originally wanted C.J. Stroud. C.J. Stroud, turns out he just bombs the test. I mean, that's just, you score in the 18th percentile, it's a problem. Maybe that's fake, I don't know. And then Frank Reich says, okay, Will Levis scored really well. He's got a strong arm. And I really think a lot of the hate that Will Levis has gotten is really undeserved. I think Will Levis could be a good quarterback in the NFL. You've got people comparing him to like Zach Wilson. He is nothing like Zach Wilson, literally nothing like Zach Wilson at all when you look at his overall build. So, listen, we'll have to see what ends up happening. I know Anthony Richardson's been getting mocked to Seattle at number 5. And the thought is he'll have kind of a learning year this next year behind Geno Smith if they do decide to draft him. I'm really not buying that. I actually think Anthony Richardson could fall down in the draft a little bit. But it depends on who likes him and who's willing to trade up for him. I really can't make a prediction on that right now. So that is kind of the current situation when it comes to all of the top quarterbacks. We will see what happens, and we'll see if the sports books allow you to bet. What do the odds open up at? Is Will Levis plus 200, plus 300 to be the number 1 overall pick after this leak? It'll be interesting. But either way, guys, that's going to do it for this video. Make sure you're following me on Twitter. Link to that's always in the description. I'm, of course, the Depressed Ginger. Thank you for watching.